Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Hurricane Watch Team is here with another tropical weather update. Today we're going to be going over a few storms. Today we'll talk about Tropical Storm Wipha, Invest 94L, Invest 98W, Invest 99W, and Tropical Depression 10. First, let's start off by talking about Tropical Storm Wipha. Where we're at right now, we got it located at 20.2 degrees north, at 106 degrees east. Air pressure continues to rise up as the storm continues to weaken and ring itself out over Southeast Asia. Air pressure up to 990 millibars. Maximum sustained winds have come down to 35 knots at about 40 miles an hour. Here is the latest satellite imagery of Tropical Storm Wipha. Relatively speaking, the storm has weakened. It is now ringing itself out across Southeast Asia, producing a lot of heavy rain and lots of flash flooding. Here is the latest radar loop. You can see a little bit of spin still there over Vietnam there, moving into Laos area. So overall, the storm is very weak in terms of wind speed. Its overall structure is terrible, especially here on satellite. However, the biggest threat continues to be that heavy rain. You really get the rain kind of constantly going down, constantly coming down, and you get these. Sometimes you'll get these setups like right in through this area. We're just sort of seeing the trailing storms and the trailing rain showers moving from the coast off the coast of Vietnam, there the South China Sea, and moving inland. And that sort of setup, you constantly get heavy rain for several hours at a time, and it causes lots of flooding and issues very quickly. Continuing to move westward, it is not expected to intensify as it is moving over land. Again, this is an outlier. You like to get the idea of all of the models in one general idea, and the general idea is going to continue to weaken as it continues to move inland over Southeast Asia. There at 35 knots, going to continue to weaken to tropical depression status, a remnant low, and eventually it will dissipate over either Vietnam or perhaps Cambodia or Laos. That's the general idea with this. It's just going to continue to produce a lot of heavy rain and lots of flooding. Several more inches of rain are expected across Southeast Asia as the storm continues to make its way to the south or to the west. Looking at what we have left of Invest 94L, not a lot. It is not looking very good. And here is why. We take a look at this. This is the ship's output diagram for Invest 94L. This is the general direction that it's going to be going. Through the Caribbean, through the Southern Caribbean, and perhaps an impact of Nicaragua and Honduras, if it even makes it past the Caribbean. However, some of the models are showing that we could see those winds spike up. However, what we need to look at is the wind shear. Alright, wind shear in knots is going to be that great. It does overall look like there will be an increasing amount of wind shear. Right now, it isn't too bad, about 10 knots. However, as we continue to look at the wind shear, does continue to increase even by 100 hours. You're looking at about 30 knots of wind shear, but then if it somehow survives this, which is according to this one model, between 30 and 35 knots, it does then weaken down to below like between 5 and 10 knots of wind shear, which is a much more suitable, but you can see the wind of the storm, the overall structure will begin to fall apart because of the overall wind shear. In terms of sea surface temperatures remain roughly the same, about 28-29 degrees Celsius. Looking at the relative humidity, actually goes up. It's relatively lower. We're actually look at satellite imagery in this area and talk a little bit about why it is so low. So much lower than usual. Usually like 60-70% is a good level of relative humidity. Take a look at water vapor here for the North Atlantic. Look at all this dry air up here. Even some more drier air down here in this area as well. We are getting some more thunderstorms and some more tropical waves starting to come off the coast of Africa. We're going into that monsoon season. So I do believe that as we go into August and September, there will be a significantly higher chance of seeing tropical activity in the main development region. I see that dry air up here is also kind of easy to see as well. If we go to water vapor, not water vapor, visible satellite as well. Again, you can kind of see some of that dry air moving westward. Water vapor is a little bit easier to see here in terms of that dry air up here. So back to current storms. Talking about Invest 94L, it doesn't appear it's going to become anything super significant. We look at the GFS model. We look at, this is the infrared imagery right here. This is the wind speeds. Down here, we have the relative humidity and wind speed in knots and air pressure, 400 to 700 millibar level. And then we also have the wind shear as well. I should just take a look at the winds, but take a look at this 4-panel here. Storm, again, look at this. I don't really think this is going to turn into anything super significant, if anything. It's just if anything, it's just gonna move into northern Brazil rather, and produce probably some heavy rain and some showers. And really, that's about it. It's a relatively storm does not look like it's going to develop and turn into anything significant. However, looking at Invest 98W, we take a look at the models here. It too does not appear it's going to become anything. If anything, I think maybe a tropical storm is certainly possible, for sure. But Typhoon, I don't think it's going to be super duper likely. Let's take a look and see what we got here with the modeling. So again, as you can see, here is the system, 987 millibars. No impacts, no direct impacts to land. Lots and lots of wind shear here at the upper levels, cutting across it. Therefore, the storm is not able to develop. It's not able to organize and really intensify. And then just take a look at the simulated infrared imagery there. It's what the GFS thinks it's going to look like by this time period. Not very good at all. Does try to develop and really intensify a little bit more. But once again, 965 millibars, got that moisture bubble. Not a lot of wind shear in this area. Lots of wind, very tight, compact. Maybe an eye wall trying to develop, again, off the coast of Japan there. Then it moves eastward as it gets carried away by that jet stream. However, the worst impacts, you may see a couple of rain bands moving into southern Japan. By that point, once it gets close enough, the jet stream is going to pick it up and take it off northeast and pull it away from Japan. There will also be some rip currents for Japan as well as Guam and the Mariana Islands, as they could also be could be impacted as well. Again, here are the Mariana Islands right in this area. There's Guam. Not a whole lot of super strong winds or anything. Nothing crazy. It's still going to take a while before it really gets its act together. Once it does get away from that wind shear, let's look down here. Notice it's constantly in all this wind shear right now. Doesn't look very good. But once it gets itself out of this wind shear, you notice right here, it moves its way out of that wind shear, and that's when we begin to see the storm really develop. So that's the main issue that is preventing the storm from really intensifying, which is a good thing, is that wind shear is keeping it on the down low. Invest 99W, here it is. Here is the latest the latest microwave imagery here. I believe 4:50. That was 1:50 a.m. Okay, so this is 4:50. You can see a little bit right in this area, a little bit of some kind of rotation north of the Philippines. There's Taiwan. There's the coast of China. So we do have some sort of rotation trying to develop. We take a look here at the satellite imagery. It doesn't look super good. There looks to be a lot of wind shear in from the north into the west, cutting across it, going southeast. But here it looks like there is a lot more convection trying to develop north of the Philippines, south of Taiwan. So that could definitely be a sign that the storm is trying to get its act together. Let's take a look at the latest forecast from the GFS model and talk a little bit about what we have here as well. Storm is just kind of going all over the place. Again, it really seems like it's going to take a while because in this case, there seems to be a little bit of dry air intrusion. Not a whole, and then it really seems to get its act together there. Not a lot of dry air. Got a moisture bubble. Not a lot of wind shear. Warm sea surface temperatures. 974 millibars. You can see the storm there. We go into time. We do, in fact, get an eye developing. This is based on the GFS model, the latest simulated infrared imagery. About 960 millibars off the coast of Japan. You may have a band or two of heavy rain, but the biggest threat, I think, is going to be those rip currents. Anyone hanging out at the beach, you're could see some pretty strong rip currents that could pull you out. So please do not go to the beach in the chance that this storm does, in fact, get closer or does get this close to the coast of Japan. And then it moves out. So storm's kind of all over the place right now with this system. Going on, talk about Tropical Depression 10. Tropical Depression 10 looks like it's trying to get its act together here. What am I doing? I need to go to satellite loop. There we go. So we can certainly see some rotation happening with the storm. Definitely is getting itself organized. Looks like maybe some wind shear cutting across up here. Starting to get some better outflow. Going off the satellite and radar to get a better, let's see if they have this. Look here. So gonna see if they had like a more zoomed in image of it, and they did not look like they have a slower, more high resolution image. Excuse me, of this system. However, we do have visible water vapor infrared products as well. So we do have some surface observations here popping in and out. We go back a little bit. 1007 millibars, temperature 27, dew point is 24, 1007 millibars, winds coming from up there. Not super duper strong at all. Pretty gusty from time to time, I bet. For sure. Certainly looks like the storm is definitely getting together. We're seeing some rotation. We have closed low for sure. Now I'm curious what let's go here. We'll take a look at that. See what the European model is saying here. Again, here's radar, winds, wind shear, and down here we have the relative humidity. Storm doesn't really become much stronger than what it is now. It does have a small window where it is at about 1,000 millibars, where we could see the air pressure getting down about between 990 and 995 millibars. But again, there's going to be a lot of wind shear with this system, and so I do expect that this storm will be kind of held back from being able to rapidly intensify for sure. Overall, taking a look at the sea surface temperatures in the West Pacific here. If I can get this to work. Is it the Northwest Pacific? Yeah, that's good. So as you can see, we do have some pretty warm sea surface temperatures here. Down here, we're talking 30, 31 degrees Celsius. But it does look like now sea surface temperatures and even tropical cyclone heat potential, I don't think is going to be much of an issue. The biggest issue is going to be that wind shear that's going to prohibit the storm from taking off. Taking a look at the North Atlantic, really nothing really taking off anytime soon there in the North Atlantic. There's a lot of dry air out there still, just not very, lot of dry air and a lot of wind shear. So if we take a look at the winds, if we take a look at the wind shear, look at all this wind shear. We got wind shear down here, we got wind shear in the Gulf of Mexico, we got wind shear in the Caribbean. So there's a lot of wind shear, generally a pretty moderate amount of wind shear there across the entire North Atlantic, which is why we don't think that there's anything going to be expected to develop anytime soon. Now, what I'm also looking at, if my mouse will work, that'd be great, thank you. Is the East Pacific, where the East Pacific, we do see some storms that could be beginning to develop here. And I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So as you can in fact see, we do get a couple storms that do develop, particularly this one, which does get pretty close to Mexico there, as it gets out to shore, away from the coast, and then perhaps another storm as well. So it does appear that the conditions would be more suitable and more favorable for tropical cyclone activity to develop there in the East Pacific, which is something I think we need to take a look at if you live along the west coast of Mexico. Please keep in mind, please watch, please monitor your local weather forecasts over the next 2 weeks or so, as we do expect some systems to develop and move that direction. So again, nothing expected in the North Atlantic. Even in the Pacific, nothing expected as of this time. Central Pacific, and there's the East Pacific. Usually will pop up off the coast of Mexico there. So really, that's really it, guys. We've talked about a lot, covering all of these systems here. A majority of them all are just going to go out to sea. However, a few, like Tropical Depression 10, which we are watching, could make some impacts towards southern China and southeastern China, as well as those islands between Taiwan, China, and Japan. The Japanese islands there could be impacted by this system, as we do expect this to reach tropical storm status. But as it goes northward, intercepts wind shear as well as some more dry air. As that happens, the storm is going to weaken. However, it's still going to bring all that rain and all that moisture with it into southern China. It looks like a landfall is possible if this does in fact develop there, just south of Shanghai, China. AVS 94L is pretty much gone. It is pretty much dead. There's nothing left of it anymore. So that one's going to be off the map here of probably within the next 6 hours or so. And that's pretty much it. We're going to continue giving y'all updates on all these systems. If y'all have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to ask in the comments section. Join our Discord. And also join our Patreon for just starting at just $1 a month. Thank you all so much for watching this latest tropical weather update. This has been the Hurricane Watch Team, your source of cyclone information. As always, stay safe and peace out.